This video is not about how to know if you're being taken advantage of in your relationship. This video is about how to know if you are responsible for being taken advantage of. Let's now take a look at 9 signs that you may be enabling your significant other to take you for granted. Usually when psychologists talk about enabling behaviors, they are referring to it in the context of addiction, such as alcoholism, drug abuse. And though this is one type setting in which we can fall into the trap of enabling, there are others too. Especially when it comes to relationships, we can confuse love for enabling or being helpful. But in the long run, our enabling behaviors can lead us to being taken for granted or preventing the enabled person from developing some level of independence. By the way, my name is Romany Malco. I am the founder of the PEP, the People's Empowerment Platform, and you are watching another episode of Advice from a Jackass. I've made all the mistakes for you, and this channel allows me to share insights gained from those mistakes in hopes that it might make your life a little better. We cover everything from entrepreneurship to aren't you gonna get out and do some shit, and everything in between. You know what I mean? All right, stop fronting and hit the subscribe button. Let's now take a look at 10 signs that you might be an enabler in your own relationship and responsible for why you are feeling taken for granted. And stick around if you're interested in my $50 Amazon gift card giveaway. Trait number 1, you might be an enabler if you find yourself regularly denying your own needs. Enablers will often sink their time, money, and energy into another person while denying themselves the self-care that they deserve. In contrast, those who help understand that taking sufficient care of oneself is a necessity if we are to be a consistent source of support for any other person. Number 2, another trait of an enabler is that they struggle to tell others no. For many of us, saying no is inherently uncomfortable. Psychologist and author Dr. Ellen Hendrickson says that when we say no, our brains jump to worst case scenario. We often feel guilty because not only do we think we're hurting the other person, but we expect retaliation. The helper, on the other hand, will understand the importance of setting boundaries and not giving in to the other person's wants all the time. Quick poll, there's something called dependent personality disorder in which a person possesses an excessive and pervasive need to be taken care of that leads to submissive, clingy, needy behavior due to fear of abandonment. What percentage of the world population do you think suffers from this disorder? Put your answer in the comments. I'll give you the answer at the end of the video, but if your answer is right, you stand to win a $50 Amazon gift card. No strings attached. Number 3, another trait of an enabler is the history of caregiving. Those who grew up in environments where they were forced to subjugate their needs in order to take care of another person. In this type of environment, caring for others gets wired into the brain as a survival instinct. So the pattern of caring continues well into adulthood. Unlike the enabler, the helper does not help out of the same deeply wired compulsion and can make better judgments of when it is and is not appropriate to help. Number 4, a deep need to be needed is a very common trait amongst enablers. In the context of a romantic or familial relationship, the dynamic between the enabler and the enabled is referred to as codependency. Author and expert on the subject Melody Beattie defines codependency as a way of approaching intimate relationships characterized by a focus on the needs of others. For the codependent person, their self-worth and self-esteem is rooted in the sacrifices they make for the person they enable, which is particularly why they continue enabling them. I spent the first half of my life not knowing how to be in the company of people who wanted me. I only knew how to be in the company of people who needed me. As a result, I surrounded myself with dependent people and then would grow resentful of them being dependent. Looking back on that scenario, in my younger years, I would have never thought that I was the codependent one, but I was. I grew frustrated with those dynamics in my relationships. I learned to refine my self-esteem and better manage my abandonment issues, and with time, I no longer felt the need to be in the company of dependent people in order to feel significant or safe. Keeping the ball rolling, if you haven't liked the video yet, now would be a good time to do so. Number 5, the enabler often makes excuses for the enabled, such as trying to convince themselves or others that this bad behavior is somehow or the other justified. The helper, on the other hand, has the ability to identify when they need to respectfully confront the other person for their behavior. Number 6, making someone else's bad decisions your emergencies. You might be an enabler if you allow another person's poor planning or bad decisions to become your emergencies. If you're constantly cleaning up their messes or constantly lying about the fact that there was a mess in the first place, you're enabling someone. It could be anything: loaning money, chauffeuring them around, babysitting, getting them out of trouble, paying their bills, or breaking up and taking them back repeatedly. If you were truly an effective helper, you'd know when it was appropriate to take a step back and allow that person to face the consequences for their actions, which is more likely to lead a person into change rather than swooping in and fixing all their their problems. Number 7, feeling resentful. Another trait of enabling your partner is if you begin to feel resentment towards that person. Despite the compulsion that the enabler may feel to help the other person, the lack of reciprocity can actually lead to them feeling resentful towards their partner because everything they're doing begins to feel like a duty or an obligation. It's this weird cycle where we choose and enable a partner because their dependency makes us feel safe and in control, and then we resent them for being dependent. Healthy relationships are characterized by a healthy balance of give and take, and sometimes it just boils down to feeling genuinely appreciated. Number 8, an enabler will often view themselves as the most capable person in the room while viewing the person they enable as helpless. The enabler may find, and particularly in the context of intimate relationships, that they are picking up more and more of the other person's responsibilities. It's as if they've forgotten what life looked like before they assumed all these responsibilities and then begin to doubt if the other person is even capable of picking up the slack. When you assume in the role of the helper, you trust in the other person's abilities without seeing the need to take control. By the way, if you're finding value in this content, will you please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell? And if you think this information might be helpful to someone, I would appreciate it if you'd share. Number 9, another sign that you might be an enabler is if you find yourself in an abusive relationship. According to the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, someone with dependent personality disorder possesses an excessive and pervasive need to be taken care of that leads to submissive, clingy, needy behavior due to a fear of abandonment. One study estimated that up to 20% of the population may possess this disorder, making it one of the most prevalent personality disorders, and it is known to be linked with domestic abuse. Those who help an abuser in a healthy way will prioritize their safety in the process of doing so, while the enabler will find themselves a victim to someone with this disorder, and it can be incredibly dangerous, especially when alcohol and drugs are involved. Now, if your answer to my pop quiz was 20%, you qualify to win a $50 Amazon gift card. I will announce the winner in my next video. As kids, we're all taught that helping others is the thing to do, but the key in this video was to help you identify when helping others crosses the line into enabling. Now, if you feel like you might be seeing some of these traits in yourself, here are a few tips that psychologists recommend to help you break the habit of enabling starting right now. First, set firm boundaries by writing out a list of what you will and will not do in helping others, particularly the person that you were enabling. That right there worked for me because I didn't really learn about boundaries until later on in life. By doing this, you are prioritizing yourself and your well-being. You are recognizing that your partner or the other person is an adult who is quite capable of taking care of themselves. So create that list as a reminder to yourself and communicate it assertively to the other person so that they have a clear understanding of where to draw the line. Also, when the person you're enabling finds themselves in trouble, relinquish the need to take control. Let them feel the brunt of their actions and remind yourself that as a human being, you are programmed to think worst case scenario and anticipate retaliation, neither of which is necessarily a reflection of reality. When we give in to our compulsive desire to rescue the other person, we deny them of the opportunity to learn from their actions. But we also deny ourselves the opportunity to become more comfortable with enforcing our boundaries. And also seek help, because quite often the need to enable another person stems from much deeper psychological issues than we realize. In case you weren't aware, there are always links to online psychiatric help in my description. There are also a whole lot of cities with support groups for people who find themselves in the position of an enabler, as well as counselors who specialize in supporting families who are dealing with codependency. In fact, research suggests that when you include your partners or other family members in your professional assessments and strategy development to help the enabled, it can actually improve the likelihood of success. So if it's safe to do so, you might want to consider reaching out for professional help. But when trying to determine if you yourself are actually an enabler, consider how doing things for the other person makes you feel. Is it satisfying, or does it make you feel resentment and frustration towards the other person? If you're tired of feeling taken for granted, try to understand that tough love is still love. And by you taking a step back, you're allowing the other person to step up and learn from their actions. And if you're dealing with someone volatile, prioritize your safety and seek help as soon as possible. My name is Romany Malco. I am the founder of the PEP, the People's Empowerment Platform, and this concludes another episode of Advice from a Jackass.